Subscribe to Books on Toast or Netflix will start censoring content. Hi everybody. Hi. Welcome to a special video on the Books on Toast channel. You're like, every video is special, Anuya, and I agree, but this one is extra special because we are going to talk about books that we have not read.
And these books have been on our TBR list for ages, and we just haven't had the time to get to them because we're so busy reading everything else. Imagine we have a job where we have to read everything.
These books have been lying on my shelf forever. So we were like, let's talk about the books that we want to read this time. And okay, why don't you start, Sharin? What's the first book on your list?
Sure. Actually, I want to talk about, and this is a shout out to this one boy who watches our channel a lot. His name is Aviral. And he sent me this book of poetry. He sent it to me because you don't like poetry. He gave me this book and he told me to read it. And I'm really sorry, Aviral. I've just seriously not had the time. But I will get into reading it. And it says, The Canvas, that's the name of the book, and it's existential seeking, faith, blasphemy, nostalgia, love and salvation.
मतलब सब तो है उसमें हम क्यों
हम
कुछ और पढ़ रहे
पढ़ेंगे.
हैं?
I will read it and I will tell you what I feel about it. And there's some really interesting, artwork in the novel, and he's given shout outs to all the amazing artists. Literally, they're called amazing artists who have collaborated with him over this little book.
My first book that I really want to read was a copy of Frank Herbert's Dune that I picked up. And I haven't yet gotten around to reading this book.
Okay.
Yeah. And there's a friend of mine who came to my house for the first time last year, and he was like, I think you're cool because you've read Dune. And I'm like, I haven't read Dune. And then he came again yesterday, and he's like, I think you're cool because you have read Dune. And I'm like, I haven't read Dune. So guys, I need to read Dune, especially since the movie is coming out by Denis Villeneuve. For those of you who don't know, Dune is a really famous science fiction tome. It's a completely new universe, kind of like the Star Wars, Star Trek vein. And I need to read this book. Otherwise, I'm like not a real science fiction fan.
Yeah, like even I have a copy of this book. Like this is my copy and this is her copy. Her copy is like better and nicer and like fancier.
Brand new and unread.
Mine is like, reeking of old things, like old fungus. It's very nice. It grows on you.
What's your second book, Sharin?
So this is an author I've actually been wanting to get into a really long time. Her name is Ayse Kulin. She's a Turkish author and she's written some really interesting books in the past which I haven't honestly read any of. And she is very different from Orhan Pamuk, the other Turkish author who is popular.
Elif Shafak is also popular.
Yeah, okay. And the third other author who's popular. But Ayse Kulin's, sort of reviews that I've read seem to be the kind of stuff that I would really get into. And she writes about Turkey not just from a point of view of an insider, but also from a point of view as an immigrant, because she's not Turkish in origin. I've read 2-3 pages of this new book of hers that came out this year called The Last Train to Istanbul. Clickbait title, I must say, because Last Train to Pakistan was another one. So anyway, this book is interesting because it reads a little bit like Kamala Shamsi, the first 2-3 chapters. So I'm just quite excited to get into it.
My second book is Robert Jordan's Eye of the World, Wheel of Time, book 1 in the Wheel of Time series. And as a fantasy enthusiast, as a fantasy connoisseur, this is the series that has been recommended to me time and again. And I have always wanted to start it. And once again, I've read the first chapter and given up. Because guys, it's like really small print in a really dense book. And there are 13 of these. There are 13. But people who've read fantasy swear by these series. And I know that there was a story about the author, Robert Jordan.
Michael Jordan also writes books called Shoes.
Robert Jordan was writing, I think, the second last book, what then they thought was the second last book in the series, and then he was diagnosed with cancer, and then he was racing against time to write the next one. And
The Wheel of Time!
Yeah, it's actually quite I don't know the exact details here, but it was actually quite such an intriguing story that, you know what, I need to give this book a genuine shot.
Yeah, we did an episode with Ashwin Mushran in which he spoke highly about this series, and he talks about how he discovered these series in a vintage shop in London, was it? And then Yeah.
Like it's like supposed to be the true successor to Lord of the Rings. So.
You know, the thing that I missed the most about reading as a child was the fact that I could read series. Like Terry Pratchett series, I've read so many times, even the ones that I could read, and it's just one of those things, right? Like now I feel I don't
Patience
have
is
the
gone.
patience.
Yeah.
I'm just an adult.
There. What's your next book?
My next book is an Indian book called Jahangir, and it is written by Parvati Sharma. So I've read a lot of William Dalrymple books on the Mughals, and I've just read a lot of books in general about the Mughals. And I remember in history classes, which was my favorite, just subject in school, I used to really spend a lot of time reading about the Mughals. So I will just you put out any shit about the Mughals, and I will eat it all. But I haven't started reading this book as of yet. I've read the first chapter, and I'll be honest, it didn't really grip me. But I will give it the time of day. I will read all of it, and I will think about what to say. But Jahangir.
My third book is a book that Sharin is going to beat me to death with.
Yeah.
After this episode.
Yeah.
So
I'm gonna beat you to death.
I'm
with
going to
Dune,
read the dedication on the Anuya. Here's my favorite copy of one of my here's my fave copy of one of my fave books to get you started with non-fiction. Love, Sharin. This she gave to me on my 31st birthday. That was
last
a year
year.
and a half ago.
Year and a half. Shame on you, Anuya. I was just gonna think years. The 6 months makes all the difference.
I promise you, Sharin.
It's okay, Anuya.
I solemnly swear I'm up to no good. No. That's not the... I solemnly swear that I will read this book hopefully before the end of this year. And I will love...
I feel rejected.
I will make Lonn friend my friend. My friend.
Lonn, friend, if you're by any chance watching this episode, I love you. Just wanted to say that. This book just came yesterday, so it's not just been lying in my closet. This is called The Blue Lotus, Myths and Folktales of India. And I've been fascinated by folktales about India in general. So Shubhangi Swaroop, who is one of our favorite, authors that we've discovered recently, talked a lot about folktales from India, and that's kind of subject material that she used to form the basis of her debut novel, Latitudes of Longing. So I've just got this renewed interest in folktales, and also last year I watched a lot of Grimm. And so I was koi Grimm India mein banega hi nahi. But there are some magical, mystical beasts and strange human beings, and I don't know, myths and folktales in India would be interesting. So this is definitely a book I'm looking forward to reading. Also, look at the cover.
It's beautiful.
It's such a beautiful, magical,
stunning
lion and stuff and lotuses and other beasts. Wow, what's going on?
My next book is Final Crisis, and disclaimer, I don't know anything about this book apart from whatever little I've googled. The reason I have this book is because a dear friend gave it to me and he said I need to read it. I know that there are comics that have come before this, and maybe I need to read those for context, or maybe I don't. I've realized the best thing to do in comics is to Google what happens before them and then just dive headfirst, because otherwise it's just a never-ending rabbit's hole of ye bhi padho, ye bhi padho, ye bhi padho, mujhse nahi hoga. So this is by Grant Morrison, and Grant Morrison is a well-loved and respected writer, as we all know.
Yes.
And the premise is that Darkseid, who I'm told is like the Thanos of DC, has come and he's altering reality after the War of Infinite Earths, the Earth of Infinite Wars, the Infinity Stone War / Purgatory, destruction, apocalyptic, dystopian,
end of the world, basically.
End of the world comic war has happened.
Now what?
And now Darkseid, who's obviously not a good guy, is altering reality. And so Justice League and the Green Lantern cause and all of them have to get together, and they have to fight the ultimate fight between popcorn, caramel and cheese. That's not what it is. Good and evil. Because what else is there?
I really do like Grant Morrison. I'm not that big a fan as Sudeep is, though. He loves Grant Morrison. And Grant Morrison's 18 Days, which I've spoken about earlier in previous episodes. I don't remember which one, though. But that is one of my favorite Grant Morrison comic books to read. 18 Days chronicles the 18-day war of the Mahabharata, which is
Cyberpunk Mahabharata. It is set in the future. It's amazing.
It's amazing.
Okay, so I am going to do the research needed, and then I'm going to read this book. Or I will just read this book, because you know what? Sometimes, fuck it.
You just read the
dive
book.
in. Yeah.
Hello! I'm so excited about this next book because I don't know why. this book won the Man Booker Prize of the year. It's called Milkman by Anna Burns. It's very rare that women win the Man Booker. There's always a talk of representation. And I know that we did an episode this year, earlier this year, where we talked about the shortlist. And this is the one book that we didn't talk about. But
Or read.
Or read. And it went ahead and won the Man Booker Prize. So just based on that premise, I'm sold. I really want to read it. And also Anna Burns is like an Irish author that she's written some interesting books like No Bones in the past. And I want to read it just to understand how she's approached stalker culture, because the premise of the book is about like an 18-year-old girl who's being stalked by a paramilitary guy who is called the Milkman. So I'm just like, whoa, dark, I like it.
So for those of you who don't know this, Milkman is part of a trilogy. The other two books are called Istriwala and Newspaperwala.
She's Parsi?
So the last book that I'm going to talk about is this book that I got when I first went to the Penguin offices 2 years ago.
Oh.
Yeah, in Gurgaon. And it's called The Lost Generation. And I've read the first 2 chapters. And what this book does is it chronicles India's dying professions. So it's by Nidhi Dugar Kundalia, she's called. And the first book is about a Haridwar Pandits who maintain genealogies. So they have like entire family trees.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I still don't understand how
Yeah.
they do it, because I mean, how do you track India's 1.2?
I thought that's like some weird thing that's not really accurate.
No,
but
this is real. They have books and books maintained by their ancestors, chronicling family trees, and you can go and you can find
Only
yours.
Hindu family trees?
Only Hindu family. It's Haridwar, man. Yeah.
I'm excluded.
And then of course the Rudalis in Rajasthan.
Oh shit!
Who are
Dimple
women-
Kapadia was amazing.
Who are women who are called to weep at funerals. Like
Yeah.
that's their job. They go and they weep
Oh
at funerals.
shit!
So this book actually like chronicles
What
like.
are the other professions? Name one more.
So there is the Godna artists of Jharkhand. I believe
Wow,
they do
Godna,
facial
yeah,
tattoos.
yeah.
So
That's like
guys, this
tribal
is,
art.
Yeah, it's all
Wow.
it's tattoos on young women. Is like this Godna artist. So these are the books that are slowly dying out because of globalization and urbanization, and this is the author's attempt to preserve them in paper.
That's damn cool.
I know.
This is sounding a lot like Aanchal Malhotra's book last year. What was it?
Remnants
called?
of a Separation.
Yeah. Which was basically the same thing, like trying to maintain and archive all the artifacts that got lost in partition.
Yeah. So this is
nice.
actually, it's a very easy read. So I don't know why I haven't gone through it. Maybe because it's non-fiction. But look at me. Look, how much have I matured? I have 2 books on my TBR that are non-fiction.
Yeah.
2!
Yeah. I'm reading this also, which I'm excited about, because folk tales is not something that I would typically pick up, but like, it's interesting.
So what's on your TBR? Tell us in the comment section. And also, subscribe to Books on Toast and share this video so that more people can get in on this let's read all the books lying around in our bookshelf movement that we are starting.
Called cleaning out my bookshelf.